Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
Welcome back to the Fort Worth 148 Masonic podcast. We are glad to have you here, and thank you for sharing your time with us. My name is Ebby Kirkendall. I am a past master and the chaplain of Fort Worth 148.
This is Cody Cox, the senior warden of Fort Worth Lodge number 148.
This is Sean DeBon, past master at Fort Worth Lodge number 148.
Omar Galeazzi, junior warden, Fort Worth 148.
Well, welcome everybody. We are glad to be back. We have been busy recording and planning for all the things that are going on in our lodge, and we also have our, we're all looking forward to our grand communication, which is coming up in just a few short months. With that in mind, we've got some great topics to talk about today. We're first going to be talking a little bit in our bullpen about some philosophical and theological principles that is going to be led by our most illustrious brother, Cody Cox here.
Don't call it most illustrious. That just sounds weird. There is nothing illustrious about me, I promise.
You are very illustrious. You are glowing with illustry.
I'm glowing because of too much food, probably.
And then we've got a great topic that we're going to be talking about that has to do with the forum that just happened at the Masonic Retirement Center in Arlington recently here in the state of Texas. We're going to be talking about we're going to have some conversations about that. So let's go ahead and start off, gentlemen, with the bullpen roundup. What do you got for us, Brother Cody?
Before we begin the bullpen round here, again, I do want to recognize our listener from North Korea. Thank you, Supreme Leader, for listening to the podcast. We're still waiting for our signed portrait. But back to serious things. So my idea for today's bullpen is I'll be honest, I was paying attention to what's happening recently in the news. We know that we have a government shutdown that's happened. We know that there has been some back and forth with SNAP benefits and things like that. So we know that there are people in our nation and in our communities right now that are facing some hard times. And so it kind of took me to the idea of our principal tenets. And I wanted to read out of the Monitor. And then I thought that I would also introduce some things from the Holy Scriptures for us to contemplate as well. But let's start off with the idea of relief, which of course is a principal tenet. To relieve the distressed is a duty incumbent upon all men, but particularly on Masons who are linked together by an indissoluble chain of sincere affection, to soothe the unhappy, to sympathize with their misfortunes, to compassionate their miseries, and to restore peace to their troubled minds is the grand aim we have in view. On this basis, we form friendships and establish our connections. And so when I read that, it kind of reminded me from the Holy Scriptures. If we go to Matthew 25, this is verse 31 through verse 46. But I kind of wanted to focus on just a couple of these things where it says, "Then the king will say to those on his right, Come you who are blessed by my Father, and inherit the kingdom of God prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me." And then, of course, it goes on, and it talks about other people that said, well, where did we feed you? Where did we clothe you? Where did we visit you? And Jesus comes back and says, well, when you did it to the least of these, you did it unto me. It's the idea that when we feed someone who needs food, we're not just feeding that person, but we're also kind of symbolically feeding Christ because we're doing it unto, our brothers and sisters in the world. So I kind of wanted to bring this concept to the roundtable here and see what you guys thought about that. How is that an application of Masonic relief?
Well, I think it's a Billy. We were talking about this, Cody and I. I was thinking about Billy Hamilton there for a second because we just had a conversation with him. I almost called you Billy Hamilton. Cody and I were having a conversation today about before we recorded this, about the nature and what's kind of going on there in Matthew, and it's a complicated passage. I've heard that passage preached in some really gross ways that suggest that there's a certain group of people that God has kind of decided are going to be blessed and going to go up the good road, and that there's a group of people that are going to go the bad road because of choices that they've made and things of that nature. I don't think that that's what the Scripture is holding out for us by any stretch. I think, as I shared with Cody, that this is really a conversation about yet another one of Jesus's commentaries about the nature of wealth, its corrosive force in our society, and how power and wealth tends to make us want to curry favor with certain people, and then that leads us to neglect our needs of those who are on the margins, who are the poor, the unsheltered, the thirsty, all of those things. And so I think that while I would not suggest that our Masonic ritual or our principles that are coming from the Monitor are overtly Christian in any way, because I believe that these sorts of teachings are available to us in any number of other religious traditions. It is an example in the Christian tradition, which a lot of Texas Masons are and claim to be. It is an example of how our Masonic teachings correlate with our spiritual teachings, and how we are called to be more than just people who think about doing good. That we are actually called to do good, and we can have. There are many people out there who probably have different religious traditions than those of us around this table. There's a healthy Christian debate about what gets you into heaven. Is it faith alone, or is it faith and works? And that's a great conversation perhaps for another time. But in terms of Masonry, I think that there is something good and wholesome about doing good things for those in need, for the sake of doing good things for those in need. I think that Sean and I have had conversations about the idea of true altruism. Does real altruism actually exist? Or do we always do things because it makes us feel good about it? That there's no way that we can just do it for the good of doing it, that there is actually some sort of benefit to it. So what about y'all? What do y'all think about this?
I want to follow on because you mentioned the conversations we have about altruism. That philosophical discussion, is true altruism possible? I think it's irrelevant, really. I mean, it's semantics, honestly, because even if we're doing good and we are doling out relief by the heap load to make ourselves feel good, does that matter? As long as we're doling out the relief, does it matter if it makes us feel? If we're doing it because we should, or because we want to, or because it's right? Like, I think if we're all of those things, like making yourself feel good in that moment is not a bad thing, right? So if I'm helping other people because it makes me feel good to help other people, that's not an evil. Quick note, I don't know. That's one of those philosophical discussions where everybody goes round and round and round in circle speech, but it doesn't really matter. Like, as long as we're out there helping. But I think the key thing, especially as it applies to Masons, right? First of all, we kind of preach and practice the idea of we help our own. So when our Masonic family is in need, we're the first line of defense, right? We're the first people there. I just saw on the Texas Freemasons page one of the brothers down South Houston, somewhere like that, I think, was having like a massive surgery. And so the brothers on the page got together, a meal train for the family, because it was a big deal, a transplant of some kind, if I remember right. I just saw it. So that kind of thing, when people here, and within our own lodge, that's what we do. Somebody gets sick, something happens, we fire up the meal train, we start volunteering to go take care of the family. God forbid if we lose a brother Mason, we all take it upon ourselves the responsibility of of being that safety net for the widows and the orphans. Like, that's what we do. That's who we are. So, those basic things are the most important. And, with the state of the world, both, here and abroad, I think it's incumbent upon us to be ready and willing, as much as our ability provides, to help as many people as we can. And it's always start small, right? You make sure your own house is in order first, and then you can successfully help.
Well, and I think it also comes down to the idea of you do what you can where you're at with what you have the ability to do. So I think that's also an important qualifier to what we're talking about here. And just to kind of go off of what Evie was talking about, the reason that I bring up the Holy Bible is because for Texas Masons, this is what's on, this is what's on the altar. And we even have language in different things where we talk about, the scriptures. So if we're supposed to be like following what it says, so it talks about relief, and then we go to the Holy Scriptures and we see what the Holy Scriptures say about what it says about relief, then my only interpretation that I can kind of come up with is that I should be doing this. And so I'm not only challenging myself, but I wanted to bring this up because I wanted to challenge other people to maybe have this conversation, especially at this time. There is, again, if you're into argumentation in that, there is exigency in this. There's a reason why we should be talking about this at this particular time. So.
Absolutely, and I think that it's also relevant to say that even if you think that everything we just talked about was complete hogwash, even if you think that the monitor's off base politically and that the scriptures are off base, or that our reading of this is completely like nincompoop stuff, that's fine. It is still, I think, incumbent upon us all to reach out to our brothers and our fraternity, the widows and orphans of our fraternity, and say, hey, things are not going well right now because of these potential SNAP benefits being, regardless of how this shakes out after this recording, regardless of what you think about those things politically, there are a lot of people out there who depend on those, and some of those are no doubt going to be brothers. We need to be checking on those people to make sure: do you have enough food? Are you okay? I think we all have a fraternal relief committee in our lodges. We should be finding out if our brothers are doing okay, if the people that we are charged to take care of are doing okay. Is there a way that our lodges can respond in a way that is meaningful, regardless of why you're doing it? It is one of our obligations that we should be doing this.
Well, and I definitely think that what we're talking about here, this is where, as Fort Worth 148, we are at the other end of the spectrum when it comes to workability. Because if you're in a small rural lodge where it's like you're the only lodge in that community, you probably have an even better feel on the pulse of your community and have a lot more impact on that community versus us in Fort Worth, where we have, even at the Masonic Temple, we have 6 other lodges besides ourselves to work in the community of Fort Worth. What I'm arguing here is that, small rural lodges actually have a way bigger impact on what we're talking about than what we do as Fort Worth 148.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. But it doesn't, I still think that we need to be, as a lodge, mindful of who's out there, who's in need, and also if you have the wherewithal to reach out of your Masonic lodge into your community, God bless and go forward. If the only thing you can do is help your brothers in their moment of need, when they're hungry or when they are thirsty or when they are in trouble, then that is absolutely, I still think, a worthwhile cause. Yeah. Did you have something you wanted to add, Omar?
I think relief is very impactful because it can make or break membership. And for personal example is, I think it was 6-7 years ago, I was in a really bad car wreck. Car was completely totaled. I was rushed to the hospital, put my head through the windshield, and I called Rit, who was the secretary at the time, and I told him, I was like, hey, I'm in the hospital, car's totaled, I don't know what's going on. Like, I was just freaking out, and I was kind of in and out of consciousness. And kind of when I came back to, Rit and another brother were in my hospital room checking on me, checking on my wife at the time, making sure that we were okay. They stayed for like 2 hours while we were getting all kinds of x-rays and tests done on us. They went and got us lunch. They took us home, and then the lodge for like the next 2 to 3 weeks. Every day somebody brought us a different meal. And that's one of the many reasons why I've always stayed very loyal and try to help out as much as I can at Fort Worth 148. Now, on the flip side of that, I joined an organization probably a year or two before COVID, and then COVID happened. Never heard from a single person in that organization until it was time to pay dues. And that was the first phone call I got was, hey, dues are due. When are you going to pay them? I'm not going to pay them. Like, not a single person texted me, not a single person checked on my family. Even though we were okay, we still had, we were very lucky, our jobs were essential, so we still had jobs. None of us got COVID. But still, the fact, a simple phone call or text message, hey, how are you doing? You need anything? I would probably still be part of that organization today, but because the first phone call I got was about money, I just completely walked away from that organization and completely want nothing to do with it.
I think that's probably a lesson in if we are really honest with ourselves. I think it goes back to our conversation between Sean and I about this whole altruism philosophy. Most Masons are Masons because we want to belong to something bigger. We want to be part of a brotherhood. We want to be part of an organization that has higher aspirational goals than just living our lives as regular people would. But there is something on the flip side of that there is an expectation on, I won't say necessarily return on investment, but there is a values conversation that needs to be had. And are our values such that, like Omar suggested, that we are reaching out to people? The first call that they get shouldn't be about dues. The first conversations they should be getting should be about welfare, about how are you? We haven't talked to you. COVID's going on. Or like our membership, we have done, I think, a really strong effort to reach out to every single one of our members over the last probably 6 months, especially our entered apprentices, to find out, how are you doing? What's going on? If you're not coming to lodge, why not? What's going on? Can we be of service? We don't just want to be an organization that's here to do the regular things that every other organization does. We want it to be an organization where we care about others, and we're meeting that monitorial goal of being of service, of being developing systems of relief that our lodge can and our lodge members can depend on. I think that's important, and sure, philosophically, it gets into this whole, like, are we doing it for altruistic reasons, or are we doing it because it makes us feel good and superior in some way? I don't know. I don't really care, if I'm being honest. The person who's hungry doesn't care why you're giving him food.
Yeah. I think that a shameless plug about our lodge. I mean, we're so active. We're doing so many things so often. I mean, at least once a week we're doing something as a group. And so it's to the point where, if we haven't seen somebody in a week, we're getting on our communication platforms. We use Slack within the group and being like, anybody heard from so-and-so? We haven't seen him in a week. Is everything okay? Do we know? We're reaching out. And so we have almost created this culture. Not almost. We have created this culture where, we are constantly checking on where everyone is. Cody, thank you, Brother Cody, sitting across from me, giving me scowls right now. He is the kind of caring person that he can read your face when you walk in a room and is automatically going to come and start asking, okay, why does your face look like that?
Cody, it's just my face.
It's just my face, Cody.
Well, there's
my face.
something wrong with it, so it needs to get fixed.
Yeah, but another thing too, it's sort of an elephant in the room, really. Like, the average age of a Mason in Texas is 66 and a half, we said last year at Grand Communication.
That sounds about right.
So this thing with benefits, right? Our fraternity specifically is going to have a lot of people who rely on a lot of these types of things. Like if you're in retirement age and you're living on Social Security, right? Because the government sold you a crappy bill of goods about Social Security, but now you're expecting that to take care of you. You may also be getting some kind of assistance from the government that may go away. And so I think at this point, reaching out, especially to our brothers that have seen more days than we have, and making sure that they're okay is probably the primary. That's where you should start, right? This shouldn't be the end all be all, but that's where you start, definitely within the fraternity.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if we have younger members who are just starting their households, they've got their kids, they may be relying on WIC. And I saw that WIC may be part of this thing where it goes away as well. If it hasn't already, I don't know. Like, that's a big deal. Like, I remember being in the military as an enlisted man. Probably 90+% of my fellow Marines who were starting families, like WIC made their groceries possible.
Yeah.
Like every week, especially on military pay. I mean, they paid us peanuts and hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
So for enlisted guys anyway.
Popcorn and bubble gum.
Yeah. And so that sort of thing, like those are the people, that's where you start, right? If you start small within your community, if you're not a Mason and you listen to us, start within your friends group. You know?
Just check up on people, ask how they're doing, because there's a lot of people who aren't doing well out there right now. And I'm not talking about like the emotional well-being, while that is certainly important, or the spiritual well-being, and that is certainly important. Right now, we're in a situation where I think that a lot of people, I have a very good friend of mine who is an air traffic controller. That's an essential government worker, and they are not allowed not to go to work. She is now on day, 25 of not getting paid and working in a job that is one of the most stressful jobs that one can imagine, and not getting paid to do it, while also she is the chief breadwinner of her family. She has a child in elementary school and a husband who is retired from the military, who also is a government employee. So I'm calling them and making sure, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? These are the things that are going on in real life right now. And I'm not putting blame at anybody's feet when I say that. I'm not trying to make a political statement when I'm saying that. I am just stating a reality. There are people in this world right now that are your neighbors. They are in your lodges, and they need you to call them up and say, hey, are you okay? Can I help you out? Do you need help with groceries? Because let's be honest, there are also some people who are, I know a couple of Masons that have a little bit more pride than they maybe ought to, and don't want to ask for help.
Why are you staring at me? Stop it.
Because you said my face was weird.
I said it was wrong and it needed to be fixed.
Because that's better. But there are so many Masons out there that they don't want to ask for help because they've got so much pride in being independent. And suddenly they're in a situation where they can't make ends meet. And I think that one of the virtues of our fraternity is the ability to go to a brother quietly and say, hey, do you need something? Because we're here if you do.
Yeah, and notice that he said go to a brother quietly. We have lots of people in our fraternity that seem to forget about that.
Don't be a clanging gong.
Please don't.
There's a lot of people who, like you said, their pride is maybe more than it ought to be. And that's be that as it may, like even if someone does need help, we're not here to embarrass people.
Absolutely.
And we don't know what may embarrass somebody, so just be discreet, right? Like if you can pull some, you don't have to get up in front of the friends group and be like, hey bro, like you look like you're down and out, what you need? Like pull them aside, talk to them quietly. But the other point too that I just popped in my head was obviously I'm a single income family. I have 3 children and a wife, and I'm the breadwinner. It's not easy right now financially for anybody because everything is more expensive, but I can still go to Sam's Club and buy a couple cases of ramen. It's very inexpensive, and I hate to think that someone may rely on that for survival, but if you have to, you have to.
It's called college. I
Yeah,
think
it's
most
called-
of us got through
Welcome,
college on.
welcome to my ministry.
Yeah.
Listen, a can of tuna and some shrimp ramen in the barracks was my life for a long time, especially if you miss chow hall hours.
Yeah. And
The emergency MREs that were like,
right.
stashed away somewhere, I'm guessing.
the canned hamburgers.
Ah, sounds wonderful to me.
Yeah.
Blech.
so. Well, gentlemen, that's gotten us a good warm up. Let's dive into our main topic today.
Ooh,
yeah,
right.
this is
Stop
gonna be
that, Omar. We see you.
So, well, let's just give a little bit of context real quick. Last week we discussed, or the last recording, it won't come out next week, but it's going to be coming out soon. We discussed the idea of racism in the craft. And it's a tough conversation. It's an awkward conversation. And we just to be completely transparent so everybody knows where we were, the people around this table, we were planning on going to the forum at the Masonic Retirement Center and asking our prospective leaders who are making themselves available what they see as being the solution for the lodges that are not allowing people of color to become members, or disinviting people, or suggesting that they're going to go blackball, get a group of people together to blackball prospective people of color who are coming into the lodges. And we were going to ask, what is your solution for this? Do you think this is a problem? And if so, what is the solution for this problem in your view? I will turn this over to the group because Brother Omar was the only one who was actually able to go to this meeting. And we have some thoughts about this. And I think the first thought is, let's put it out there. What is the purpose of these forums? In the people around this table, what should these sort of forums be for? And what should be our expectation of these sorts of events, these forums where we get to know the candidates?
Yeah, so first time I ever went to one, but I was kind of under the impression that it would be a chance where, we could go and ask questions to the individuals who are making themselves available, because in the flyer it said, come meet the candidates, and 100% not what it was about, right? So it was questions that were already pre-made, who supposedly the candidates had no clue what the questions were, but they weren't serious questions. They were beach ball size questions of, what's your leadership skills? What's your biggest goal to accomplish? You don't really find out who the candidate is and how they're gonna better the craft if they go into the Grand South. And some of the questions definitely needed rebuttals to them. For example, like membership, right? Every fraternal organization is losing members. So they had all these great ideas of how to raise membership in Texas. Well, my rebuttal would be like, well, is your lodge gaining members? So if you can't gain members in your lodge, how do you expect to gain members in Texas? So that's just kind of, I really felt really disappointed in the questions that were asked. And I honestly walked away, not really knowing who the candidates were, and even if they would be great candidates for the Grand South.
To add into that, I because I wasn't able to attend, we had a pressing event.
It was very pressing.
It was a very pressing event.
It was very pressing
that we had to go to, and we were happy to go to. I watched the event, the forum, on Facebook Live because they had posted it, and I have to agree with what Brother Omar just suggested. I'm not suggesting that we need like Face the Nation, like Sunday talk show level questions that are gotcha style questions. I don't think that we need that. We don't need like citizen journalism showing up with cameras to record gotcha moments and go viral.
Oh, I'm wearing a hat that has the little tag in it that says press. Yeah, I'm going to be doing that.
But what we do need are are questions that are meaningfully going to address the challenges, to find out what these candidates are going to do to address the challenges of the Grand Lodge of Texas in a respectful way. And those, I listened to those questions. They were the softest of the softball. They were not even introspective. They were the kind of stuff. So what's your leadership style? I jokingly said to somebody who pointed that when Omar said that that's a question that's being asked, I was like, I can already predict what they're going to say. That they're going to say that they have a servant leadership approach to leadership, a servant leader. Well, we don't even. Everybody's going to say that. That's not even a thing. So I don't need to know what your leadership style is. I don't care what your leadership style is. I want to know, what are you going to do to meaningfully address the issues of the Grand Lodge of Texas?
So when I text you that and you wrote me back, I busted out laughing and had people looking at me because it was 99% word for word what the replies back were from the candidates.
And that is just such, like, you don't need to, like, Omar said that they made a big deal about these questions were not known to the candidates. Well, that question you don't even need to know, because you know it's going to get asked, and it's been asked every single time that they've ever been anywhere, and you know as a candidate it's going to be asked you. So it's such a performative question.
It's like, thank you, Miss Venezuela. Now,
exactly.
Now, Miss France, would you please
peace.
come? Yeah,
World peace.
yeah, and maps. If you get that joke about a beauty queen saying that we need more maps, congratulations.
What is your ideal date? It's April 26th, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's not too cold and it's not too warm, and all you need is a light sweater.
First and foremost, no shade on the people that are making themselves available. I would assume they didn't really have anything to do with it if they didn't know about the questions.
No, this is not their fault.
Yeah.
This is not their fault.
But it's interesting in Texas because we have things set the way they are, where we are, for all intents and purposes, not allowed to campaign per se for roles in the Grand Lodge, right? So we have brothers who are called to service, and they make themselves available for leadership. And we could have a whole other podcast about that and what that really means in real life. But we should still, as a craft, be able to, I think, have an opportunity to determine the priorities of the individual who are planning to be at state level leadership. More especially for our state, because we have come through a couple of years with a little bit of controversy. So if coming out of a few years with a little bit of controversy, and then you put together a forum and your preset questions are the softest of softballs, in quotations, like what are you thinking about?
Well, and Sean, with you talking about this, something that I did want to bring up is that if we look at something being advertised as a forum, if we go to Merriam-Webster, I just looked it up. There's a couple of definitions here. One, it says, of course, that it is a public meeting place for open discussion. And then if you go down a little bit, definition 3A says a public meeting or lecture involving audience discussion. And Omar, what I'm collecting is that there was very little like back and forth. This was kind of like, here's the questions, how would you answer them? And as an audience member, you were just kind of expected to sit there and go, okay, great, thank you for your answer. I have nothing to follow up with that, which I know is absolutely not the case.
100% correct. It was a question, they gave an answer, next question, move on.
The extent of the audience participation that I saw on the Facebook Live was the
Zero.
audience getting up and saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
That was all that the audience was there for. If that is the way that forums are going to be conducted, I would suggest that we just forego them and just put it on Facebook Live and let them answer these questions without anybody present.
Or don't call it a forum. Call it a meet the candidate, or just see the candidates live or something like that.
Well, it's not even live. I mean, you don't. That's the thing that just grinds my gears so much. And if you saw me right now, if we had this on YouTube, you'd see me smacking my forehead. It is so frustrating to me that that this is not us getting to know the candidates. This is not going to stop us from being able to make informed decisions with our votes at Grand Lodge that could have ostensibly, and I'm gonna say the uncomfortable thing here.
Say the awkward thing.
Say the awkward thing. Had we known people in the past what their leadership style really is, because we know that some of the people who claim to be servant leaders are not servant leaders. Had we had these kind of conversations in the past, some of the drama that we had over the last couple of years that Brother Sean just alluded to, we might have been able to have dodged with a well-informed audience that asked questions of their potential leaders. If we ask good and informed questions, respectful questions, questions that are designed to get to know someone's character a little bit more completely. I'm not advocating gotcha questions, and I'm not advocating like getting to know somebody's, opinion on the hot button political item of the day. But I assure you that if you say to me that your best idea for increasing membership is Master Mason in a Day classes, you're not getting my vote, because that's not how you're going to increase membership. And we know that that's not how you're going to increase membership. And if you tell me that that's what you're going to do, at least I know where you stand on the issue and I can make an informed decision. I disagree with you, but I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'm just going to know where you're at. And it's those sorts of things that if we have an opportunity to actually ask those questions, it would have made a big difference. One of the other questions that is so important that we talked to at the beginning of this segment is the idea of racism in the craft. We have lodges that are that we know of anecdotally that are not allowing members that are not white Christian members to become members of their lodge. That they are advocating that they are going to blackball members who are not white and or Christian.
And we've also had anecdotes of lodges that are not allowing brothers in AF and AM lodges that are of color to actually come and visit their lodges. We have anecdotal evidence of that as well.
And it's not small. This is not one-off anecdotes, right? We're in the DFW Metroplex in Texas. It's a huge place, right? There are 28 states that have populations smaller than DFW Metroplex. So we've got a lot going on here, and we have multiple, not just onesies and twosies, multiple lodges where we know they are doing racist things. It's not a maybe. We know it's happening. And we have brothers not just not being able to visit, but brothers who have been looking for a different lodge to affiliate because they moved or something happened in their life. They're already Master Masons, and they just wanted to affiliate in a place closer to their new home, or for whatever reason, being told that they're going to get blackballed for affiliation. This is a brother Mason.
It's already been through the degrees and is now a Master Mason.
It's terrible. It's not a small thing. It's not a sweep under the rug kind of thing. It's not something I think that we, as Masons who aspire and talk so much stuff about being better, being higher, aspiring to greater things, fraternity of how's it go? A fraternity of men under the
fatherhood of
God. Well, we're not under the fatherhood of God if we are doing any sort of thing that even sort of is racist.
And I will tell, I have no problem. I will not equivocate about this. The brothers who are doing that are shameful. I am ashamed of the brothers that are doing that. And if you and the thing is, smacking my forehead again. The thing is, if you are a member of a lodge that has brothers that are doing this, and you are not pushing back against that and or bringing them up on charges for this, then you are also part of the problem, because your unwillingness to address the racism in your midst is allowing that racism to exist, to get bigger, and to become a bigger problem. And it surprises me at how many lodges here in the DFW Metroplex that I have heard anecdotally. And again, we all know that anecdotes are not, it's not the end all and be all. People can have bad experiences. People can exaggerate. I'm taking all of these anecdotes with a grain of salt. But when the anecdotes start adding up the way that they are, since we have started talking about this, we were talking about this earlier, we have been talking about this. People are coming out of the woodworks to share stories about their racist encounters in and around lodges in the state of Texas. And it's blowing my mind that this is happening, that the fact that we're talking about this is increasing the number of anecdotes that we're getting. So this isn't just as Sean said, this isn't a one-off. This is happening. What are we going to do? And why can't we ask our candidates for the Grand South and the other parts of that are making themselves available for other parts of our leadership, what are they going to do to stop this? Because this is the one area where I think Grand Lodge has the only jurisdiction that can handle this. And they need to start going around snatching those wall-mounted, delightful little documents off of the wall and taking them out, and then taking them to the Grand Lodge and bringing up the leadership and making them explain to the Grand West why that charter was snatched and what they're going to be doing to make sure that never happens again. Because as I said earlier today to all of you around this table, there is no disinfectant stronger than shame.
100% agree. And kind of what brought up the question was because of our podcast that we released about racism, and people that I've started telling them about that and when the release date is and they need to go listen to it. To your point, people have started coming out of the woodwork and was like, oh, well, I know that this lodge did this, and firsthand account of, oh, this lodge over here said that they were going to blackball this brother because he's not the right color for the lodge. And so after 2 hours of sitting in a forum where softball questions were asked, we were told like, hey, we've been here for 2 hours, don't want to keep everybody here a little bit longer, but you can go ask the candidates questions privately. So I went and asked the gentlemen who are making themselves available for the Grand South. I told them, I was like, hey, would you acknowledge racism exists in the crap, and how are you going to fix it? And, they acknowledged it. And, I asked them, well, how are we going to fix this, right? And they said people need to be held accountable and charters need to be pulled. And I'm hoping that by them saying that if they do get elected to the Grand South, that they'll actually keep their words. And when charges are actually brought, and where it's like obvious, like you can go to YouTube or you can go to Facebook and you can pull it up and like, yep, that's a racist comment, or yep, he's being racist. Like there's it's not hearsay, I can prove it 100% that those people are kicked out of the fraternity. And if it's a lodge issue, then those charters are pulled. And like you said, they had to go before the Grand West and explain, okay, yeah, we did say you have to be a white Christian to be a part of our lodge, which we all know firsthand account of a brother who went to a lodge and he was told that you have to be a white Christian to join our lodge. So I hope that does happen. I hope charters get pulled, and I hope people get kicked out, because this Freemasonry, there's no place for that.
And if you're going to talk about one of the I think the one of the most corrosive forces to membership numbers is going to be racism. Nothing is going to drive away members faster, regardless of race, regardless of political affiliation, than becoming than that sort of racist attitude.
It ties to a broader category of a thing that'll drive people away. It's this hypocrisy, right? It goes beyond the racism. While the racism is the symptom, or I don't know, maybe that's not a good way to say it, but it's the hypocrisy. It's like we're going to stand up here and we're going to say, oh, we're going to be better, we're going to do better, we're going to grow, we're going to learn, we're going to help people, and then you're going to go back to the old. That old adage, the racism. I mean, come on, it's 2025. Like, it's mind blowing. Like, I guess growing up, I was really lucky. I grew up in Fort Worth as a melting pot. We had everybody of all races, and so when we were kids, like it wasn't a thing. And then if some kid did pop off and do something that was a little bit racist, it was like, yeah, I mean, they're being stupid. They're kids. But so I guess I didn't ever really believe that people were like actually racist.
Yeah, like
You
the
know?
like the people in the back room smoking cigars, going,
Yeah.
"How can we oppress the
Yeah,
the
I
people
thought
of color?"
I thought they were stupid kids, and they said something stupid, or they repeated something that they heard from one of their elders. And if anybody was, I'm 42 years old, so growing up in the 90s, I thought anybody who was still racist had to be at least 80, right? And then I went to the Marine Corps, and it's the same thing. Like the Marines is notorious. We don't tolerate that sort of thing in the Marine Corps. It's notorious that they nip that in the bud as quick as they can in boot camp if somebody is identified as having even a tendency. You're going to get, if you're a white person and you're a racist and you don't like people of color, you're going to get a bunkmate who is the most of color you could be right away, and you're going to have to do everything with that person, which is good. Get rid of it early. But that's not a small thing in our craft. It's not like we all have flaws.
I am.
Yeah, let's not use the King David argument. Oh, he was a man of many flaws. No. If you do not know about David's flaws, go and find them out.
Read the book.
Yeah, read the book.
Yeah, that's not a flaw that we can accept.
No.
That's
And I think that's one of the things that Masons, because I tend to be optimistic, perhaps to a Pollyanna-ish fault. I believe in redemption. I believe in grace. I believe that everybody can be redeemed regardless of what they've done in their past, who they are, where they've been, what they've said, how they've done it. It doesn't matter. There is opportunities for redemption. Here's where I think the Masonic quandary comes in. Our craft is designed to take good men and make them better.
Right.
If you're a racist, hot take, you're not a good man to begin with. And you don't deserve the opportunity in our craft to be made better by it, because you can't be made better if you don't start from a good place. We say that all the time during our investigations. I don't understand why we are so quick to give a pass to people who are overtly racist. And we are very quick to do it in our craft. I think that the fact that this is such a problem now, that we've now had 2 podcasts that this has come up organically, in a way that made it like a hot button issue in our minds, that we wanted to talk about it publicly.
Well, but I think to your point, and I know, Omar, you have something here, but getting back to the conversation of us selecting a Grand Junior Warden and having the opportunity to ask these types of questions, as Omar was discussing, is the idea that what I'm kind of feeling here is that we are looking at our podcast as a way for us to kind of get this out there and discuss it. This is what we have control over. The person that will eventually have the purple placed upon their shoulders of our fraternity is the person who ultimately can bring an end in some grand way to this problem that we're discussing. We can talk about it as much as we want to on this podcast, but until somebody that we have elected to that position that has that power to go, you know what, I heard this, I have some evidence, I've come to visit you, can I have that piece of paper that's on the wall, please? Thank you. We'll see you at Grand Lodge, and you can explain to your brothers why I pulled this piece of paper off the wall. If we can get people in those positions of power that can actually affect that kind of change that we're talking about, that's great. But where we're sitting at with the quote-unquote forums is we're looking at the people who could eventually have that purple on their shoulders, and we still don't have those answers. So we're expecting to choose from folks that we haven't even heard how they're going to address these big topics.
I guess we should also remember, like, maybe we need to ask them if they're racist first.
So, not to kind of get away from what Brother Cody was just saying, but kind of a hot take on what Brother Evie said was, stop giving a candidate a petition within the first 10 minutes of you meeting them, right? So, prime example, somebody posted on Texas Freemasons, hey, I got a friend who's in Fort Worth, is interested in joining Masonry. Can any lodge reach out to me? in Fort Worth area. So reach out to the guy, kind of just ask him a few basic questions. Ask him if he thought that this guy was good for Masonry and would he bring him into his lodge? And he said yes. So, as a brother Mason, I take that as, hey, you did your due diligence. You know who this guy is. You know what he's about. So brought him up to New County tonight, talked to him. Didn't really get any kind of weird vibes, but we do our background. I literally put his name into Google, white supremacy. Like everything about him, he was very pro-Hitler, pro-white nationalism, and just called the guy and it's like, hey, like Masonry is not right for you. Like we want nothing to do with you, a part of our lodge. But imagine if we would have gave him a petition within, first meeting him, not doing any due diligence of Googling him, looking him up on social media, Facebook, anything like that, just adding to the problem. So stop giving people petitions as soon as you meet them. Do due diligence, look them up, Google their names, do some kind of investigation before you give them a petition. Guarding the West Gate's one of the most important things you can do.
And that's how and I think that's how we prevent these sorts of problems from ever becoming a problem, because the challenge that we're facing, and we talked about this a little bit in our last episode, that if you're not guarding the West Gate, then what ends up happening is it creates an environment where an entire lodge of people like that can suddenly form and take the reins of power in that lodge and then kind of enact their vision for what this organization should look like. So suddenly, to give in Omar's point, if this brother has other people that he wants to recommend this situation, then all of a sudden that person recommends some more people and that person recommends some more people. Suddenly you have a lodge full of white supremacists and neo-Nazis. And what are they going to do? They're going to make that entire lodge into their own image. And that's a huge problem. And it's apparently happened already as it relates to some of these lodges in terms of race. And I maybe we're over exaggerating. I'm just going to say that out loud. Is it possible that we are, because of all the anecdotes that we've heard over the last few weeks and months, that we're overestimating the amount of problem this is in the craft? Possibly. I think it's possible. I don't want to be the person who thinks that who's suggesting that every lodge has a race problem, because I don't think that it is. We clearly don't. But there's at least in the last week 3 that we have talked about, that we've gotten 3 different examples of people coming forward and saying, yeah, we had a really horrible situation. We had, they suggested that they made the overt statement that they're going to blackball people because of their race. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I'm gobsmacked by, if I'm being honest.
It's really, gobsmacked. That's a good word, really. Like, this is really hard to process. Of all the things in the world, of all the things that you're going to find hatred in your heart.
Or that you're going to blackball somebody. It might even be hatred. Of all the things that you can blackball somebody for.
Oh, even if you're one of those people that rationalizes in your head some sort of separate but equal mentality, right? You got to be kidding me. Like, really? Have you read a book?
Well, and again, here, let's tie this to what we were talking about during the bullpen session. If we look, if we are professing belief in deity, and we are professing the idea of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, nowhere in any of those types of things is there a qualifier that it is based upon skin color, economic status, religion, any of that kind of stuff. So it's when we start to allow those types of things into the fraternity and we allow it to stay there because it's not that big of a deal, or it's only in these particular places, and we're not putting a stop to it. It sits, it festers, and it's eventually going to come to a head. And so instead of us not discussing it, or not thinking it's that big of a deal, with us openly talking about it, I believe that it's much better for us to get it out there into the open so that we can have open dialogue about it.
So I had a kind of a question of the kind of what the original topic kind of was. Let's say Fort Worth 148, we held a forum, right? And we invited the candidates, not necessarily this year, but just anytime. And we told them that it wasn't going to be predetermined questions. We were going to invite other lodges, and people would be allowed to ask open questions to the candidates, real questions. How would you feel if they turned that down and just said that they weren't comfortable with being in a situation where, maybe those hard questions about the fraternity were asked, not necessarily just the racism questions, but just like real questions about like why the craft is what it is now and what can we do to fix it? Would that kind of maybe sway how you voted?
It would definitely make me think that that person was not serious about or had ulterior motives. I would definitely question their motives if they were willing to duck an event like that. I also think it's important to just acknowledge that when Sean brought up the point that electioneering is against our rules here in the state of Texas. I can see that if we open the forum up to just any question, there are all sorts of really, really stupid questions and electioneering based questions that could be asked. So I can understand going through and making sure that the questions are curated to be appropriate and not electioneering in nature, or not to be the kind of question that disparages the good name of another person running for or who has been in or who has led our fraternity in the past. I can understand the need for curating the questions. But at something like this, if you had gone to this forum and said, hey, I've got a question I would like included, and here's the question. If they are not going to include that question, I would like to know why, because I think that what you are going to ask, the whole idea of like, what would you do if do you acknowledge that racism is a problem? And if so, what would you do to address it in our fraternity? That is not electioneering. It is not something that is going to cause any problems, as I can tell, in an electioneering way that might go against any of the values that we have as a fraternity. And that's the kind of curating that should happen. But if they would if a candidate would duck those kind of questions by not showing up, that tells me that they are either unwilling or unprepared to answer those questions. And I would say that tells me that you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. That's just my take.
I'll be the guy that says the controversial thing. So if you're invited and you're capable of coming, like if we've worked out schedules and then like you've kind of pre-committed, right? And then when we hit you with that, like, hey, we're not going to hold back. These are the kind of questions that are going to be there. And then you bow out. Not only are you not serious, you're not qualified. You're not qualified and you're not ready. I mean, we've done podcasts before about the whole idea of oh, well, it's their turn, which is like the worst, it's the most insidious thing that
Evie, I need you to fix your face, please.
Could have. But you're not, you don't have it. You don't have it. You're not leadership material if you're not willing to at least entertain the questions and try to come up with a thoughtful answer. It may not be the best answer, but...
Well, and I don't think that I'm holding people to an unrealistic standard to say that you need to have a question, you need to have an answer for these things.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to wax poetic about, the nature of evil in the universe. I'm asking you what you would tangibly do to address a serious problem that is affecting the membership of the Grand Lodge of Texas.
Something that I would bring up right now, because I'm working through it in my head, would be, I know that there's probably people out there that might listen to this or might hear about this podcast and go, well, they're just trying to sow discord. They're not maintaining peace and harmony. I kind of feel like that phrase, peace and harmony, people in our fraternity hide behind because they don't want to talk about difficult issues that we should be discussing.
That's
so
called
they
a
kind of
cop-out.
hide behind it. So it's not that the four of us here are trying to trying to sow discord and that we're not wanting peace and harmony. But at what point does peace and harmony become a crutch to what we should be doing as Masons, and that is becoming better men?
Or more
I don't-
importantly, what? Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
I don't want peace and harmony with racists. I want Jesus kicking over the tables in the temple with racists. I don't want peace and harmony with a racist, period.
And that's kind of what I was going to say. Is the question is peace and harmony for who? Like are we saying that the racists should be peaceful and harmonious in their lodges? I don't think that racists should have peace and or harmony in Masonic lodges. I think that we should have an environment where the people who experience peace and harmony in our lodges are the people who are decent master Masons and decent human beings. And I will say the uncomfortable thing, I don't think you can be called decent and racist in the same sentence. Those two things are antithetical. A decent human being is not a racist.
It's almost like if you are practicing or okay with racism, then you are already sowing the seeds of
you are the disharmony.
of no peace and no harmony.
Yes, you are the opposite of peace and harmony. You are disharmony and you are like chaos. You are agents and merchants of evil. I don't know any other way to say that. And I know that that's really aggressive language, but that's like burning in my stomach right now that this is even a conversation that we have to have.
Right, but getting again back to what we've kind of been talking about, if we do not know on this issue and other issues that we feel are important, if we don't know how a candidate for the Grand South feels about these, then how can we be expected to put forth our vote and vote our conscience and select somebody that we really feel is going to be, in our viewpoint, the best person for the job if we have no idea where they stand on some of these very important issues?
Yeah. Well, I think that we have sufficiently beaten that horse over the last two episodes.
Should we take a vow that we're not going to do we needed like 5 buffer episodes before we could talk about racism again?
Right. Yes. Let's hope that we don't have another situation that it kind of erupted like it did this week. But if you think that we are wrong, if you careful listener are out there thinking to yourself that you guys are wrong and here's why, we want to know why. We want you to share your thoughts with us. Please like, comment, subscribe. Make sure that you are telling us why we are wrong, or if you agree with us, tell us why we are right. We are open to hearing those different feedbacks on whatever platform that you happen to be listening to. We want to have this to be a conversation. We want this to be a forum where there is dialogue going both ways here. And so if that is something that is important to you, please let us know. Reach out to us on the internets, on the socials. We are all here and available. Cody, Evie, Omar, and Sean, we are all here to hear your feedback.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? Before we get to anything else, Evie, do we not have a sponsor now for our
yes, we do.
podcast?
Yes, we do. We are very fortunate to have a sponsor in the company called B&Brew. They are a manufacturer of fine mead products here in the DFW area. And coffee products. Their coffee beans are second to none. They are made with wholesome Texas honey produced right here in the United States, right here in Texas, I should say. And the mead is produced right here in Fort Worth. So if you want Texas honey that has been turned into Texas mead by a Texan, then look no further than B&Brew. And if you have some coffee that you would like to buy, I assure you that it is good coffee. We have definitely been enjoying it ourselves. And if you happen to feel like that this is something that you would like to enjoy, a product of our brother Chris Minicucci, the proprietor of B&Brew, He has been so kind as to offer a 10% discount to our listeners of this fair podcast. So please spend your money with a Mason. Spend your money on well-crafted products that are made locally, sourced locally, and made ethically here in our lovely city of Fort Worth.
Aren't we on YouTube now too? Should we talk about that and put a plug out there that we're
Are we on the U of tubes?
We are on the tubes of you,
Okay.
and we have been on the tubes of you now for a little while. It is just an audio experience right now, so it's like a podcast on YouTube, but we are there. Feel free to like and subscribe. It's the Fort Worth 148 podcast on the YouTube.
another avenue for you to reach out and let us know how you feel about it.
Yes, that is probably the one that is going to be the biggest one moving forward. So you can reach us on any podcasting app, and you can also reach us on the YouTube. And we are super excited to be part of that. We are hoping that at some point we will bring video to our fair podcast here. We've been a little resistant to it, I think, because that means we're going to have to wear something besides pajamas. But you know,
No.
The
The people get what they get.
They're not
okay?
ready for my
they
face.
they get what they get, and they don't complain.
Sean DeBond, the face that broke the internet.
The face made only for podcasting.
The face that launched 1,000 ships to the depths of the sea.
All right. Well, thank you all, fair listeners, for tuning in to this episode of the Fort Worth 148 Masonic Podcast. We are glad that you took time out of your day to consider it and to listen. If you have any feedback, of course, let us know. And with that, my name is Evie Kirkendall, and I'm signing off.
This is Cody Cox signing off.
Sean DeBond signing off.
Omar Galeazzi signing off.